And just let me know if you are able to see my presentation. Are you guys able to see my presentation? Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Monica. So I'm just going to keep the chat section open here. And today I have a hard stop at 7:45 today, so I'll be trying and going through the content pretty swiftly. Yeah, so please type away in the chat section. Don't wait for me to ask you any questions um, uh, because we are tight on schedule today. Uh, Toxic guilt and toxic shame, are they different? Yes, we will come to it in a bit. Yeah. Thank you, John, for that question. So a brief bit of background about me. I'm Stephen Anthony. I'm a medical doctor. I'm a psychiatrist by training. I'm trained as a coach as well as a hypnotherapist, as a master NLP practitioner in CBT and many other forms of therapy. I do this to help people, and we usually conduct this as a monthly seminar. You can join in and listen in and type in. I usually enjoy interacting with you guys. Whenever you guys post comments in the chat section, I really enjoy that. If you need to have a private conversation or a private consultation, you can always head over to psychologymd.com. We also have our courses there on relationships, on conversational hypnosis, and other forms of things. We also help with hypnotherapy, stress management, public speaking, and so on. Okay, so let's get started. Understanding guilt and shame. So somebody already asked in the question, it was John who said, what is the difference between guilt and shame? Well, guilt is more of I did something bad. Yeah, so it's just more of action focused feeling. Yeah, so healthy guilt is actually a breakfast of a good soul. The reason is when you do something bad, if you don't have remorse, in fact, they looked at prisoners who used to commit very terrible, violent crimes, and when they studied the brain of these criminals, one of them was Ted Bundy. You may know him as a serial killer. Um, One of the things they found was that there was an anomaly in one part of the brain known as the amygdala, which is actually responsible for the mirror neuron, but also for experiencing guilt. And he did not experience any guilt whenever he was killing people. So to him, he didn't have the regular emotions as other humans would. So he was never able to stop himself. He just kept on doing it. So healthy guilt is actually a good thing. It helps us keep in check. Um, Now, we have to differentiate that from toxic guilt, and we'll come to that in a moment. Yeah. And what is shame? Shame is when, well, you could say I'm ashamed of what I did. Yes, that is in a light meaning. Yes. But when shame becomes toxic is when it becomes part of the self-image. When people start to make it their own identity. When they say, I am bad, it is not that I did something bad or I didn't perform very well, at this time point. Rather, they say, I'm just bad or I'm just no good. An example can be an employee working at an office making a presentation, yeah, and at the end of the presentation, probably it didn't go well, and instead of saying, well, that particular presentation on that day didn't go well, and it also depends on the audience, right? Instead of thinking that, if they say, well, I'm typically not good at talks, if they keep on saying that to themselves, that first becomes a kind of a belief, and later it becomes part of a self-image. And that is when it starts getting toxic. Yeah. So shame sometimes can be also experienced in bodily sensations. Many children actually who go through a very traumatic childhood, they often experience a tremendous amount of shame because they've been there was a study they did on this, and they said there's guilt throwers and there is guilt catchers in family homes. Usually in abusive homes, one or both of the parents, is typically a guilt thrower, and the child who is usually the victim is a guilt catcher. And this also happens in relationships. Yeah, so there can be a husband and a wife, there can be a guilt thrower and a guilt catcher. And they just kind of, that's just the dynamic they grow up with. And they usually, when children from these kind of families, when they grow up, if they are a guilt catcher, they will go and find a guilt thrower. Yeah, makes sense. So it's a little bit of a conditioning that's ongoing, but that is not a healthy way of functioning in life. Yeah. So I want to tell you a small little story, and because you may ask, well, who's responsible? Who's responsible if I don't have a healthy self-esteem? Who's responsible if I don't have a healthy self-image? Life itself is difficult, and there are many people who have wronged me. So many of you may have this question, and I often come across people who do have this question. So I want to tell you a story about Alvin and his three friends. So you can see here, there's a small picture of Alvin. Alvin is a very old person. He's over the age of 70, and his friends are also in the similar age group. Yeah, they are 75, 80 plus years old. All of them suffer from Alzheimer's dementia. So they have forgetfulness, terrible forgetfulness, all of them. Yeah. So one day, Alvin invites all of them over to have some tea. They sit down, and first Alvin makes a cup of tea and brings it to all of them, and they start chatting. And because of their forgetfulness, they forget that they've been having tea. And Alvin says, "Oh, I forgot to make tea for you. Shall I make tea for you guys?" And all of them say, "Yeah, sure." And then he goes and makes another pot of tea and he gets it. And then they keep on talking. And after some time, one of them is just staring out there, out of the window. And Alvin says, "Oh, by the way, I just forgot. We never had tea. So I'll go make tea." And he goes and makes some more tea, and he brings the teacup and a teapot, and he fills all the teacups, and again they have tea. And at the end of that conversation, all of them are going home. And while they're walking back home, the other three friends, they forgot that they had tea. So one of them says, "Can you believe Alvin invited us to his home, promising us tea, and he never served us tea?" And the second one says, "Did we go to Alvin's home?" And the third one is just looking at them. Yeah. Meanwhile, Alvin is looking outside the window and looks at these three people, and he says, "Look at these three. They're walking by my home and they never even stop to say hello." So whose fault is it? Who's doing the wrong thing here? Well, the problem here is that everybody's mind is playing tricks on them. I hope you get the gist of the story. Um, Even though this is kind of a comic portrayal of what's happening in life, when there are many different distractions, many different stresses, what happens is children that grow up in a certain home, they cannot see through what their parents are going through. And in fact, those parents have been conditioned by another older generation of parents. Yeah, so it just keeps on perpetuating that way. And it's just that nobody knew any better. So it's actually nobody's fault. It's nobody's fault that somebody either wronged you or somebody did you right. Well, it is on you now as an adult to take responsibility for your life and for your feelings. And once you start taking responsibility, once you move from the phase of, well, that was not right, they did me wrong, the world is so stressful. Once you move from there to, well, I have this life, I'm going to take responsibility, and what do I do with this from here on? Yeah, that's when the whole shift begins to happen. That's when you feel empowered. And that is the day when self-image begins to shift. So if that starts happening, then what do you need to do in order to, well, in order to make sure that you find all these negative beliefs and take care of them? Yeah. Let me just look at the participants here. Just okay, all right. So the root causes can be many. Yeah. Some people are always examining the roots while the others want to pluck the fruits. Yeah. If you are in a mango garden, go and pluck the mango. Don't look at the trees. Why did it come? What is the root cause? Well, there's a lot of root causes. There's a lot of studies done on this. I can go on and on about this, but it's of no use, right? The important thing is that we take responsibility and we move on. So the root cause can be childhood conditioning. It could be a cultural practice. It could be a religious practice. It could be trauma. It could be abuse. It could be any type of mental illness that runs in the family that has been afflicting different types of people, and that's why they behave in a certain way, right? We are not bothered about that. So, what do we then do? If you are interested in learning more about everything about, well, let's say, shame itself, on the topic of shame, and you want to go really deep into it, I would recommend this resource by John Bradshaw. It's called Healing the Shame That Binds You. And he's a very well known author who did some phenomenal work on shame. And so I think it's available on Amazon and you can get it and give it a read if you want to go deeper into this. Now, how do you then break the cycle? Yeah, there are a few ways to do it. The first way is to bring awareness to it. Recognize this inner shame dialogue. What is this dialogue that is going on inside of you? Now, let's face it, not all of us came with a guidebook to life. Yeah. There was somebody who said this very interesting phrase. I don't know if it was Nietzsche, but he said, to be human is to be limited. And every time you face a problem in life, every time you face a challenge in life, it's just a reminder that you are human and you don't have all the answers. Nobody has all the answers. I don't have it. Nobody I really know has it. The people who claim to have all the answers are usually they usually have a mental issue of some sort. Uh, uh, you know, well, you could make different types of diagnosis, but well, there could be a lot of different types of personality disorders, right? And people who more or less got it right at one point or the other, they got it wrong, and eventually they got, well, they paid the price for it. Yeah, every guru in history, almost everybody that has claimed to know all the answers, has gone down the same way. And if you look closely enough into every type of teaching, every type of philosophy, culture, whatever have you. Nobody has it perfect. Yeah. So, and that is because it's just part of being human. That is part of the human condition to understand that we have limitations. If you are in a bad mood, if you wake up one day, you are sitting on your bed, you don't understand why are you having this problem or this challenge in life? Just understand that humans have limitations, and that's just part of living. Now, can we improve it? Can we improve the experience of life then? Yes. How do you do that? First, you catch yourself in the act, right? First, you catch yourself and you become very aware. And you say, okay, I'm aware that something is bothering me. There's a certain belief, thought, shame, guilt, whatever have you, right? Catch yourself in the act first. Second thing, like we said, nobody has all the answers. Life is just going to be a series of problems and challenges to remind us that we are human. Once we have that realization, try and think about What is the inner dialogue that is going on in my mind? What am I telling myself? And whatever I am telling myself, is it empowering me or is it withholding me? You may now think of, the last time you didn't feel good. There was a problem or some issue that affected you, and you had a certain thought. And think about the way you are thinking. Think about the feeling you are experiencing. And I would like you to ask yourself, is that empowering or is that diminishing of your power? If you take that type of feeling and belief and live that way long term, what is the kind of impact it will have on your health, your well being, the people around you, your future opportunities? You can think about that and you can see how it has a huge ripple effect. Instead, if you bring it back in and think about how can you turn it into a more empowering, nurturing thought that can help you help you move that needle just a little bit. Yeah. There are many tools that we work with in the area of psychology and psychiatry. One of them is cognitive restructuring. I usually have had a lot of success working with clients who used cognitive behavior therapy, and it consists of identifying different types of negative thinking patterns and then changing them. Yeah. And then, of course, practicing self-compassion. So let me just give you a little bit of an introduction to how cognitive distortions work. Distortion is just an error in a way of thinking. And there was this person called Aaron T. Beck. He went and studied how people were thinking. He was a psychiatrist. And one of the things he found in people that didn't have good self-image or people that were going through issues, problems, stress, and so on, they usually had a few typical ways of thinking, which may not be rooted in truth. Yeah. Um, those he called as cognitive distortions. And the more he started grouping them under a few general categories, the more he would find them in his clinic. And what he said was, well, let's try and identify these kinds of thinking in people, and let's see if we start treating them with just managing these types of thoughts and changing them. Does it help with, all these kind of stress and emotions and, depression and anxiety? So they did a study. They did, on one arm, there was people on medicine, on antidepressants. And on the other arm, there were people who were on CBT, cognitive behavior therapy, where they were identifying these types of thinking patterns and changing them. Yeah. What do you think happened? Well, in that study, they found um, that patients who went through these types of therapies, where you identified these types of thinking and fixed it, they were able to experience better mood as comparable to any antidepressant. Yeah, and this was a study that became very famous, and out of it came cognitive behavior therapy. So, four main things that you can learn about cognitive behavior therapy or cognitive distortions. And you can really use these terms and you can come out sounding sounding really smart to people. Yeah, if you want to throw around, if you're a manager or even if you're a parent or if you're with your partner and you just want to look very smart, you can throw around some of these terminologies. The first one is called labeling. Labeling is where people are just giving it a broad label. Yeah, so instead of identifying what is the real issue, how many aspects, perspectives there could be, instead of looking at it from multiple angles, they've just taken on one broad label. Yeah, so that is labeling. The second type of cognitive distortion is called catastrophizing. Catastrophizing. Some of you may have experienced it in your family, or you might have seen it in a friend, or you might have seen it in yourself, which is it's saying, "Oh, it's all done, it's all gone, it's all ruined now." Um, Well, usually people survive, usually they move on. Yeah, so this is called as catastrophizing. The third type of thinking is called overgeneralization. Yeah, overgeneralization is where people tend to generalize everything, which is, man, I always mess up. I always do this. I always get into bad relationships. I always land with horrible bosses. One of these things. They're just overgeneralizing it. One of the ways to break it is by asking the question, is it always? Is it 100% every time you see this? And usually people will be able to, cite some examples where that is not the case. And then with that example, you can break the belief. Yeah. The fourth thing is this is a common one, which is emotional reasoning. This is more prevalent than you think, which is I feel bad about this. I have a gut feeling about this. It's bad, so it must be bad. Um, what people found is that yes, there is a certain level of intuition. Yeah, there is a people do have intuition, people do have experience, and with that they can tell sometimes. But more often than not, what people found was that people tend to over worry and they tend to attach meaning to emotions. And emotions can be caused by many different things. And in one of the studies, what they found was that the most common reason for bad emotion, I don't know if you can guess this, has got nothing to do with people or what they said or the situation at all. The most common reason for a bad emotion, people going through a bad emotion, is number one, hypoglycemia, not having eaten enough, so they just feel weak and lethargic. Number two, hyperglycemia, they've eaten too much, and that also causes that blood rush, and sometimes people experience rage or a hypomanic situation, right? The third one is lack of sleep, people not having enough sleep. A fourth one is disease causing inflammation in the body and releasing all these kind of toxins into the body. So it just makes people feel bad. Now, if they take that as the reason, just because they didn't have a snack, even having coffee sometimes in many people can create emotions when the coffee tends to wear off. Um, so if you attribute a meaning to that emotion and if you make decisions based on those emotions without being rational, it can lead to some very impulsive, very, very kind of short-sighted snap judgments and snap decisions, which may not work in your favor. Yeah. So those are some things you want to consider. Uh, John says, I'm grumpy when I wake up. Some are grumpy before they sleep. Yes, true. Um, Sometimes it's also called um, the reason why they were looking at, they asked people to maintain diaries. This was a recurring issue where many people, in fact, most people said that when they wake up, they don't feel like they have peace of mind. They feel a bit groggy. And when they found out, when they hooked them up to, fMRIs and EEGs, what they found is that most often than not, they're usually waking up in the middle of a cycle, in the middle of a cycle. Or it can be because the sleep itself has not been relaxing, it's not been restoring enough. Yeah. Um, People who are more intellectual, who have an intellectual bend of mind, they will start to think immediately. If they're not feeling good upon waking up, they will start thinking immediately, oh, what's happening? Oh, and they start immediately worrying. That's one of the classic patterns of many people. It's There is also evolutionary psychology to it. And if you ever wondered, I think I've shared this in the past as well, if you ever wondered why people have bad dreams, it is said that as we evolved and as we descended over 100 to 200 thousands of years, the people that survived faced a lot of trauma during sleeping hours because they could be attacked by a predator or something could go wrong. So they would always wake up feeling unsure, feeling anxious. So what people say is that that wiring continued. So usually awakening is associated with some kind of, well, poor mood. And it is actually the outlier for many people to have a very well rested sleep. Yeah. Um, so there's that bit of interesting trivia for you. So now that we talked about different types of distortions, um, yeah, so John also says it's also REM sleep and dreams early morning. Yeah. Well, there is a whole um, science behind this REM sleep and dreams and how do you, well, then there is another branch of it which is called lucid dreaming. And and there is a whole community. You can go Google this up. It's called Lucid, Lucid, lucid dreaming. And there are certain supplements those communities are on, and they are in the twilight state. So it's just an interesting tidbit. Yeah. So what they try to do is they enter the twilight state of dreaming, and they're kind of able to take control over it. It's almost that phase where you're kind of awake, but you're asleep, but you're awake. Then you know that it's a dream. Is it a dream? Is it not a dream? Am I dreaming? It's one of those things. Yeah. But in that moment, they're able to consciously take control of this dream, and then they ride it. So that is called lucid dreaming, and it's a hobby that there are hobbyists who do this. Anyway, I think we digress too much. Uh, Coming back to the topic of how do we then take each of these distorted thoughts and how do we change them? So here you see a table. Yeah, here on the left side you see the distorted thought. There is a type of distortion, and then there is the reframe. Okay, so that you see on your screen now. So on the left side, you see I'm not good enough. So what's happening there is classic labeling. One of the ways you could look at it is by saying, well, I made a mistake, but I'm learning and I'm growing, and I will learn and I'll get better eventually. Another one is I always mess up. That is an over generalization. And one of the ways to counteract that is by saying, well, sometimes things go wrong, but I also get things right. Yeah. So that could be one way of supporting yourself. Um, I should have known better. Yeah, this is you. This is usually after you realize you made a mistake. People say that wisdom is something that comes a minute after you know you made the mistake. It doesn't come before. Yeah, that's a problem. So I should have known better. What you could say is, I did my best with what I knew at that time. Yeah, and the intention was to do the best with whatever I knew at that point in time. Another one is I'm broken. Yeah, something is wrong with me. Maybe I'm depressed, I'm anxious, I don't know. It could be anything. So it could just be stress. It could just be not having direction in life. It could just be not having goals in life. Um, there could be so many things. But just labeling it and catastrophizing it as, oh, something is wrong with me or I'm broken, that can create a poor self-image, which can, again, it goes down that spiral. Yeah. So one of the ways to look at it is, well, maybe I'm not broken. It's just that I'm feeling bad at this moment in time. And over time, I've learned how to heal from trauma to trauma. Yeah. So one of the things that can really help, yeah, is to journal. And the way to journal it, I talk about this in one of my programs. I think it's in the video program called Deep Connection Blueprint. That's a program that teaches partners on how to have a deep connection. In that, we talk about there is a whole section on journaling and how to journal. And what you have to do is the basic technique is you need to write from multiple different perspectives. One perspective is as if you are writing a letter to a friend. Write whatever is going on in your life as if you're writing a letter to a friend. The second technique is to write as if a coach is advising somebody, as if you are your own coach and you are advising yourself about the problem. So you write down and you journal and you coach as if you are your own coach. So there are different perspectives to this, yeah. But starting there, starting with just simple journaling for 10 minutes every day, just 10 minutes, will help you catch a lot of these kind of beliefs that may be hindering you right now. And it will kind of help you feel better over time. If if you want to get more examples, here are some more powerful reframes for you. A classic one, many children carry this when they grow up in overly critical homes, which is everything is my fault. They tend to personalize everything. I played a part, but I'm not responsible for everything. That's what you say in that case. Yeah. Yeah, I'm also responsible, but I'm not responsible for everything. Yeah, it's part of it as me. Yeah. Uh, Another thought can be I'm a burden. That is self-blame. Um, One way to change that is to say, well, I deserve care and connection without everything having to be transactional. It can just be a simple human bond without expecting anything in return. Um, Another one can be resting is lazy. This usually is very common in Asian homes. Yeah, that's um, resting sometimes can be a strength, not a weakness. Some people cannot rest at all. Yeah, so learning how to rest properly is also a strength. Um, then there are other different variations of this. I'm too damaged to be loved. Yeah. So that can be again changed. It can be something on the lines of, well, I am worthy of love, and there are many qualities in me which will bring value to another person, add color to another person's life, and it could be so many good qualities in you. So, well, there you go. Um, Here's another one. I don't deserve happiness. Um, Here's another one. I can't forgive myself. Here's another one. I am a burden. So, how will you then think about reframing these types of thoughts? Um, this is one question I have for you. Okay. So, I hope that gives you a good primer into what we were talking about. So, remember, shame dies when stories are told in safe places. This is a very famous quote. And what it means is if you tell your story in a safe place with a friend or a therapist or a coach or whatever have you, they will help you reframe the story in such a way that there is no more shame attached to the story. Take a story in your life that is haunting you or bothering you, okay? And try telling it in a more compassionate manner. Try retelling the story from a different perspective in a more compassionate manner towards yourself. Yeah. And that itself will kill toxic beliefs, toxic shame, toxic guilt, and so on. Yeah. A few final thoughts. Embrace imperfection. Yeah. Uh, like we said, to be human is to be limited. Do not believe anybody who says that they have all the answers. There is this culture of chasing happiness. Yeah, there is nothing wrong with being happy. Yeah, but there is a culture of chasing happiness all the time where it's not just about finding solutions to problems and having a peaceful life. It's more about I need to be happy 24/7, happy all the time. And there is a group, well, there is a cult that encourages this kind of pseudo philosophy, which is not really possible as a human being. Yeah, I've seen and I've worked with many people and I've worked with many experts. I've never seen a human till now who has all the answers, who's 100% happy all the time. Never, not once. Whoever has said that, I could clearly see through them. Usually, it's a narcissistic personality disorder. They think too highly of themselves, or they have very poor self awareness. If you just watch them long enough, you can tell very quickly. Yeah. So embrace imperfection. There is some wisdom in it. Yeah. To be human is to be limited. Next time you have a problem or a challenge, just understand life is it's just a way of life reminding us that we are just human. Yeah. Second part is take responsibility, take accountability without letting it turn into a toxic belief or guilt. Number three, set boundaries, establish boundaries from negative people, but also from yourself. Don't encourage thoughts, memories, groups, people that would put you in a negative state of mind. Yeah. And number four is learn to retell or rewrite your story. The story that haunts you, the story that holds you back, rewrite it and retell it. Yeah. If you can reauthor your narrative, um, that will bring you a lot of healing and it will help you move forward and make enormous strides. I want to share with you this very interesting poem by Edgar Guest. Yeah. It goes something like this. When things go wrong, as they sometimes will, when the road you're trudging seems all uphill, when the funds are low and the debts are high, and you want to smile, but you have to sigh. When care is pressing you down a bit, rest if you must, but don't you quit. And there is that beautiful poem. I would suggest that you print this and keep this somewhere. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed the talk. Let me look at the comment section here. And let's see. Will the seminar be held again? Um, Well, will the seminar be held again? Unlikely in the next year, but you can catch the recording on our Telegram group. Even if it's held, it might be a different version. Um, the blueprint helped me a lot. Thank you, Faye. Seems to capture stream of thought, then garner objectivity. Yes, capture your stream of thought. Capturing your stream of thought is, well, it's a form of awareness, yeah, becoming more aware. And yes, you can say objective. You can stay objective. And one of the ways to stay objective is by shifting perspectives. In NLP, neuro linguistic programming, you call this as first perspective, second perspective, and third perspective. And humans have this amazing capacity. And how it works is you are thinking about something, right? Let's say that you can just imagine where you're sitting for a moment. Yeah, imagine where you're sitting for a moment. Now imagine somebody is watching where you are sitting and the position in which you are sitting. Okay? You can imagine that, right? That is the second perspective. Now imagine the person is who is watching you is now being watched by another person. The third person is watching the second person watching you. If you can imagine, that is the third perspective. Now, how it works is, how you can make use of it is, think of yourself being in a problem situation. Then step into second perspective and say, if I was observing myself, what would I say to myself? Yeah. Or if I was my own coach, what would I say to myself? And then step into third perspective that takes a little bit more of brain power. Yeah. So there you have to say, well, is that the right advice to give? Yeah. Usually therapists, coaches, they give you that perspective and you can just vent and that's why that usually helps. You don't have to do that yourself. But there will be moments when you're by yourself and you need it the most. That's when I would advise that you just practice this one simple thing, just stepping out of perspective. Second perspective, third perspective. Yeah, it'll give you a lot of solutions. John says reparenting. Yes, you can be your own best parent. Christine says, I started with CBT and this seminar is enriching and incredibly helpful. Will the content of the slides be publicized somewhere by any chance? Well, the video should have it. So, you can actually um, just watch the video and look at the slides, I guess. John says, I'm responsible because I never had parents who. Mm. That's a good one. So John says, I'm responsible because I never had parents who behaved as adults. Um, here's a little secret. None of our parents ever knew how to behave as a perfect adult. Yeah? Everybody is just acting. Everybody is putting on a show. Um, Faye says, I feel you, but as we grow up and have awareness, realize parents are also first-time parents growing up themselves. Yes, true. Again, it goes to that story I was telling you about Alvin and his friends, right? Um, People being dealt with faulty brains and people trying to do the best they can with whatever situation they find themselves in. Um, there you have it. John says, yeah, they did their best. Johnson also says cult of Amazon shopping. Yes, we can also do perspective of work talking to ourselves. Yes, talking to yourself. Just make sure it's not in public. Yeah, just a joke. Or talk to GPT and tell them to be the devil's advocate. Yes, GPT can help as well. Yeah. So excellent. Thank you, everyone. Like I told you today, I have a hard stop. I have an important meeting after this. But thank you very much for tuning in. One thing I would ask of you is to leave a review if you found this talk to be helpful. Yeah. If it added value to you in any way, if it helped you get a perspective or a fresh look at things, please leave a review. If you go to meetup.com, at the top of it, you can go to the review section and leave a review. That means a lot to me. That's really one of the reasons that I keep doing this. Yeah, that keeps me going. Otherwise, I wish you a very wonderful day. By the way, next month we are conducting a very important session on goal setting. It's going to be a mother of all goal settings. Yeah, comprehensive goal setting. Make sure you're there. Don't miss it. Because you not only learn it for yourself, you can then teach it to all your next generations. Yeah, this is goal setting done right. I've studied goal setting for the longest time and looked at people who done it different ways. Yeah, next session you will see the very best of comprehensive goal setting. It will help you take control of your life and set a pathway for almost every part of life. Yeah. Okay, so that's on the Meetup page, and you can see the you can see the yeah you can see the page there. Shall we set up a self-help group? Yes, you can. The self-help group is the Telegram group, John. You can type questions there, and we can help each other out. So. Um, Miracle Silva, I have questions. Hope there's a group chat. Yes, there is a group chat. I don't have the link to the group. The group link is at the top of the Meetup group. If you go to the Meetup group, meetup.com, go to the page there. At the very top, you'll see join this Telegram group. Click on that link and it will take you directly. It's a private invite to the Telegram group. Yeah. Is there a WhatsApp group? Is there a WhatsApp group chat? It's a good question. That's a good question. How many do we manage, Yeah, I always get stuck between the two options, even when I know I'm right or wrong. And when I finally make a decision, I feel like the one I didn't choose might have been the better one. Moitri, seems like no matter what decision you make, it's always going to be the wrong one. So maybe you need to look at that perspective. Yeah. Um, that's something to consider. Okay, wonderful. Michael Moitri, I think we can talk a little bit more about this probably in the upcoming sessions. Remember, there is never a right choice. There is only a choice, and you make it right. Two people can make the same choice. For example, two people are given the same job. One will take it 2 years down the lane, crash and burn. They are fired. The second person will come up and, they will do really well. Both of them made the same decision. They both took the same job. Um, it's just you making your decision right. No decision is right. It's you who make the decision right. Yeah. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you very much. And have a nice night, everyone. Bye bye.